the move that's happening right now that you're hearing about Bitcoin and blockchain and cryptocurrency is just as large a move as what happened when the initial internet rolled out in the 90s. And right now you're seeing a lot of technologies that may seem very confusing to you. You're like, what's a Bitcoin? Why do I have cryptocurrency? What's my crypto wallet? But you fast forward another 10 or 15 years, technologists like myself can see these being used every day to make life simpler.
It's my pleasure to welcome Matthew Gould. He's the founder of Unstoppable Domains and has a very interesting platform, I guess you would call it, or a business that can enable easier transfer of cryptocurrencies, but also more internet freedom. I guess I would take the leap and say that, given the current cancel culture of deplatforming and all of this scary censorship that's going on. Matthew, welcome. How you doing?
Doing great. Thanks for having me, Jason.
It's good to have you, and you're joining us from Reno, Nevada. So how old is Unstoppable Domains, and what was the impetus to create this?
Yes, we are just over 3 years old. We just turned 3. And the impetus was when we took a look at all these cryptocurrency users out there. It was a booming market, lots of new people getting into the space, and they had a really tough problem sending and receiving cryptocurrency. So that was step one, because if you've ever sent Bitcoin, it's got a really long hex address, just like IP addresses that you would have seen back in the 80s. So that was that was the genesis of the idea. And then once we dug in, we realized, hey, using these blockchain domains, we can also publish decentralized websites. And so we expanded the business to cover cryptocurrency payments and then also decentralized websites.
Okay, so people can move cryptocurrency around, sending and, well, not sending, just receiving it, right?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, and there's a lower chance of error because you don't have that long address, right?
Yeah, and I actually just think it's better for cryptocurrency and Bitcoin adoption broadly because UX is actually very important to get users to come into the space. It's already technically challenging for people to start using Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. And I think this is something that's just going to become bigger this decade. Like over the next 10 years, more people are going to be interacting with blockchains and cryptocurrency every day. And they're going to want something easy to remember for sending money.
Yeah, and it works with 50 different cryptos, right?
It's actually over 50 cryptocurrencies right now. So for those who have maybe 3 or 4 different types of cryptocurrency, instead of having to tell people 3 or 4 different addresses for where to send money, you can just tell them one domain name.
Okay, good. And we'll get back to more on the cryptocurrency side of it, but let's talk about the free speech aspect of this. What is the concern here people should have, and how do you solve the problem?
Yeah, so I would say that we have this problem on the internet right now where a lot of the platforms that can essentially censor what you're doing are all these private companies. And then and I think that's the wrong place for decisions to be made about what you can say or do, or even if you can receive money. So it's actually blockchain technology and cryptocurrency sits at this neat intersection where it's money that's non-state backed so that people can have free commerce without having interference from any third parties. And then it's also technologies for looking up or displaying different content without having to have those intermediaries. So to simplify that down for people, if you have a blockchain domain like matthew.crypto, anyone on the planet can send money to me directly. They don't have to ask PayPal's permission or have their payment processing turned off by Visa or something like that. And then additionally, if you want to see the type of content that I'm publishing, you could go and see my decentralized website. And there's no Facebook Supreme Court or something like this to determine what it is that I can and cannot publish on there, or YouTube that just randomly takes down your video content without really giving a good reason other than some corporate hack has decided this is not a good thing to have on the platform.
Right. They don't give any real reason. It's absolutely incredibly scary that we are really actually living in this Orwellian world that George Orwell predicted back in 1948 or so. And of course, the book is called 1984. The idea that just a few big companies can determine the success or failure of someone's business, what they get to say. And now what we see is that everybody is self-censoring, which is even more scary in a way, because now they're all afraid they're going to get kicked off. And these monopolistic companies They just, there's nowhere else to go. It's like this winner take all world. It even exists on Amazon, of course. Amazon bans books regularly. No one knows what comes up in search results and why. So that's actually my next question. If someone has a website, and we've got to also make the distinction, this is not hosting, right? So your hosting company could still kick you off. So if you're with AWS or GoDaddy or Liquid Web or any of these companies that have already been kicking off conservative websites, this doesn't solve your problem. It only solves how the domain name resolves, right? Do you want to explain that a little bit?
Yeah, so the problem we're tackling is the DNS system, and that's when you type in a .com domain name. There's a whole bunch of servers, and they determine how you can look up that name and what information they display you. And .com is actually owned by a big company called VeriSign, and they try to stay out of the news because, like other big companies, they don't want to have to worry about this moderation problem either. But if you look at the stack for technology in big tech in general, there's all these different choke points on the stack. It's your hosting provider is a choke point for you. It's your DNS provider is a choke point for you. It could be the ISP for the consumer is a choke point for you. It's the search engine is a choke point. It's the browser. And so all these different people have a say in how they censor you. And yes, Unstoppable Domains, we're tackling this one particular problem for DNS. There's other companies out there that are tackling things around hosting, like IPFS would be an example of that. And there's this whole community of people working to bring these technologies to the present so that we have more options.
Okay, so I was going to ask you about the search engine. That's another barrier, right? So I'm guessing that Google, for example, being anti-free speech, will not index these websites. And by the way, the two extensions that you have are .crypto and .zil, is it?
Yeah, that's correct. And we built, that was a reference to, .zil was a reference to one of the backend technologies we used, which was the Zilliqa blockchain. And then .crypto was our second generation, and it was meant for the broader crypto market, because we think that cryptocurrency users are going to be early adopters of the decentralized web, which will allow for more freedom.
Yeah. Okay, so what about the search engines? They could just choose not to index these domain extensions, right?
That's true. But there are more than one search engine. Now, I know everyone uses Google. So we are playing the very long game here in a very early place on the new internet. But, Amazon was once small too. So I have faith that there is enough demand for these types of products over the next decade that we're going to see more search engines index them. And then eventually, Google's mission is to index all the information of the web. They even take books and scan them, right? So I feel like they'll eventually come over here once they realize that this is content that people are interested in.
Right, exactly. Okay. What else should people know about this? And also, before we started, we kind of alluded to the hosting problem. Is there a solution for that? I know it's not your company, but is there a modern blockchain oriented, free speech oriented hosting solution out there?
Yes, there are actually several. And I would say that one of the earliest hosting solutions that people would know about would probably be something like BitTorrent. And they've been hosting peer-to-peer content for over a decade. But there's a lot of other providers out there. I'll just name a few: Filecoin, IPFS, Arweave, Siacoin. These are probably all things that most mainstream users haven't heard about yet because they're still only have a few 100,000 users. But these are places where you can post content without having anyone else tell you that you have to take it down.
Mm-hmm. So then there's the problem of like speed, right? The speed at which the domain name resolves, that's one speed. And then the speed at which the website runs. And so these things are complicated. There's a lot to this, right? A lot of considerations.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of I mean, the internet wasn't built in a day. It was built over like 20 something years, and we have the same thing here. But the choice basically comes down to there's three different organizations who can decide what the internet looks like in the future. One is the government. I think everyone would agree. If you go to China, it's not a really great idea to have them decide what's allowed and what's not allowed. The other is these big corporations like Facebook and Twitter. And that's what's been happening over the past decade. And we're starting to see problems with that because they're not necessarily unbiased in their views.
That's the understatement of the century right there. They are totally biased. Yeah.
Well, people are waking up that this is a problem. So you don't want governments to do it, and you don't want these corporations to act as choke points. So that your last option is to give the decision all the way back to the consumer. And so that's what's happening in the blockchain space right now, is they really are working on decentralized tech so that, Bitcoin is money that's in your wallet. It's not on a server at Bank of America. And, unstoppable domains is a domain name that's in your wallet. It's not on a server for GoDaddy. And then as this evolves, you're going to have websites built on the decentralized web that are stored on networks of users' computers and not on Amazon servers so that they can't take them down. So we think this is the third option for the internet, because we've tried the government back in the 70s and nothing happened with the internet. It just sat there and did nothing. Then we let corporations get in. We had a boom in commerce, which has been great, but now we're starting to see limits on their ability to regulate properly. And so we need to take the next step and move the technology, this next generation of decentralized tools, so that users have more say on their digital lives.
Absolutely great idea. So, just a statement on that. I would much rather have the government regulating the internet than these private companies, because at least with the government in a democratic country like the United States, you have redress, you have recourse. You have nothing against Google and Amazon and all the rest. I don't need to name them. Everybody knows who they are. That's really problematic. For 12 years I've been saying that one or all of these three things need to happen. Number one, these companies need to be busted up under antitrust laws. They're just way too big, and there's no other real legitimate choice in the marketplace. Or number two, their algorithms need to be made public so everybody can see what they're doing and why they're doing it, why certain things come up in your Facebook news feed, why certain search results come up when you search something on your search engine results page. And or number three, they need to be regulated under common carrier laws. For example, if the phone company doesn't like what we're talking about on the phone, they don't get to cancel our service as long as we're paying for the service. Then everybody will say, well, Google is free, Facebook is free. No, it's not free. You are paying with your data. You are the product. That would be like a cow going to the slaughterhouse saying, well, the food's been free here. Yeah, you're about to pay the ultimate price, right? And that's exactly what we're all doing. So.
I couldn't agree more. And I actually think, I agree on all of those points. And, it would be nice if our government was more responsible in responding to these problems, but they have been completely absent. And we view all this decentralized and, Bitcoin and crypto tech as a technology answer to just, frankly, a lack of government action. And I can't believe that they've allowed such a concentration in these big tech companies. I mean, it's like the 1890s has nothing on big tech today.
The railroad barons you're talking about, and the industrialists, and
they've got nothing. And we could use some trust busting. I would welcome all of that to come in here and help break these companies up.
Yeah, of course. And the problem with the government is it's run by lobbyists, and lobbyists have money, and guess who's spending a fortune on lobbyists? Google, Facebook, all the rest. So it's a real problem, no question about it. Tell us a little bit more about how the technology works. It's certainly hard for me to understand this. So I'm guessing it's hard for a lot of people listening to this to understand it. How do you have a decentralized, everybody understands the idea of you go to GoDaddy, you buy a domain name or whatever registrar. But how can you have a decentralized domain name? And with a decentralized name, since you own it forever, you only pay for it once. There's no renewal fees, right?
That's correct. Yep. So how you build these decentralized systems is you write a software spec, just like the Bitcoin software that was originally written. And then inside that specification, they lay out the rules for how everyone is supposed to be able to participate. And if anyone cheats on those rules, then that person in the Bitcoin example would lose money, because they would be the Bitcoin that they have would be discounted because they've cheated, is essentially what it comes down to. So if you want to build these same type of open software specs for people to make new systems, like new protocols for people to do things like domain names or launch websites, you actually write it into the code itself. It says, hey, this is the way the system's going to work. It's going to work exactly like this. And no individual company or person can decide to censor or monitor any single one of these transactions. And so that's how you can have a system where you can actually have ownership, because I'm trusting that the other hundreds of people participating in this network are all going to follow the rules. And because it's decentralized and spread out, they can't just go to one person and change their mind. Like at Facebook, if Mark Zuckerberg just decides, hey, I don't like this, it's gone. But on Bitcoin, if Mark Zuckerberg decides, hey, I don't like this person, nothing he can do, because the other 10,000 people running Bitcoin nodes are going to continue to follow the software.
Yeah, very interesting. Since you mentioned Zuckerberg and Facebook, I got to just ask you about Libra. He tried, thankfully unsuccessfully, to take over the cryptocurrency market. Let's hope that does not happen. But Facebook, of course, is launching their own crypto. I'm amazed because years ago I said the first company that should do this is Amazon. I mean, that would be such an obvious choice, but for some reason they just don't seem interested, at least not so far.
So this is the one place where the regulators actually did wake up, because
Hmm.
what happened is they were like, big tech has all this power. And then Facebook said, oh, we also want to have the currency. And I think
Right.
that woke up Wall Street, and they went down to their lobbyists and told them, hey, you can't make this happen. So now the central government is the Fed, and everybody's playing catch up, because the truth is the dollar is really old. In the 1970s, we had the best finance technology on the planet, right? We were really good, strong banking systems in the 50s, better than everyone else.
And
Now,
what are you referring to, like the SWIFT system, or what do you mean when you say that?
yeah. I mean, like the settlement, right?
Yeah.
And being able to know that the money's there in a couple of days. But now actually other countries have better systems for us for back-end settlement for banking than we do. And China in particular is looking to launch their own digital currency. And you don't think about it a lot, but if one country has better money than another country, if it's a technology advance because it's faster, like it's digital and it can settle in 10 seconds or something, that's going to be a lot more attractive to use for trade. And so that's actually a threat to the dollar long term if we don't actually update to have these better technologies. And the US is definitely not interested in having Facebook build the better currency that everyone switches over to, because that's just an amount of power I don't think that they're comfortable with a private company having at this point in time. But I think the US government is tuned into this now. Finally, they woke up, especially because of the threat from the Chinese digital yuan. And we're going to see a lot of progress on the digital dollar over the next 5 years. It's going to take them a while, though, because there's a lot of privacy concerns there. But I'll just say I would much prefer to have a digital dollar be the dominant currency in the world than the digital yuan, which is
Yeah.
the other alternative.
Right. Right. Yeah, I agree with you. Very interesting. What else do you want to share? What else do you want people to know about any of these topics we've discussed, or maybe something we haven't discussed?
Yeah, so I would just say to your listeners, because they're a more traditional tech audience, that the move that's happening right now that you're hearing about Bitcoin and blockchain and cryptocurrency is just as large a move as what happened when the initial internet rolled out in the 90s. And right now you're seeing a lot of technologies that may seem very confusing to you. You're like, what's a Bitcoin? Why do I have cryptocurrency? What's my crypto wallet? But you fast forward another 10 or 15 years, technologists like myself can see these being used every day to make life simpler. And the best example I have for you is if you want to open a business right now and you need to open a checking account, it's a pain to go and get all this thing set up. But in the future, you're going to be able to download an app on your cell phone, and you're going to be able to do all of your banking, all of your financial services from your cell phone. You're seeing this already with Robinhood and advanced options trading, but it's going to get even more in that direction. And so we're going to take this financial services sector that's out of Wall Street that milks, trillions of dollars in transaction fees every year off the global economy, and we're going to drop the cost of that dramatically. And we're going to put that power right into your cell phone wallet, and that's what's happening in the background. That's the big infrastructure play that's being built out here on the software side for blockchain and crypto. And so I think it's a great idea to educate yourself about this space. Go do some reading about this topic and tune in, because there's going to be a lot of opportunity here over the next decade for early users. Just like the first people to launch websites on the regular internet were super successful, there's going to be chances for people here in this space as well to be at the forefront of this new rerouting of financial infrastructure in the global economy.
Matthew, thanks so much for joining us, and share your website if you would.
Yeah, we are unstoppabledomains.com, and it's very easy to go ahead and get your blockchain domain name there. And then also, if you're on Twitter, you can find us at unstoppable.web, and we'd love to have you join the conversation.
So can I also find you at Unstoppable on a .crypto extension?
Yes, you can. We are unstoppabledomains.crypto, and you'll need to go to our website to see how to configure your browser correctly to find it.
Oh, okay. So that is one other thing. People do have to configure their browsers to be able to accept those other extensions.
That is correct, except for the Opera browser. We have a couple more browsers coming on this year as well
Okay.
that we'll announce. And it's mainly because they aren't used to resolving non-traditional websites yet, but we're working hard to make that much more common.
Yeah. Good stuff. Well, I wish you big success and thanks for joining us.
All right, it's been a pleasure.